It's 6 p.m. Eastern. It's time for the Daily Wrap. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, joined by my co-host and former caddy for Arnold Palmer. Is that true?
No, actually, he used to carry my bag. Somebody gave me the information wrong. Yeah.
Somebody looked at the script beforehand. Forbes columnist Rick Unger is here. Also, she's one of Philadelphia's top attorneys and once auditioned for the role of Sydney on Melrose Place. Gave it to the redhead instead. Heather Hansen, welcome.
Bad call.
And finally, he's the editor of WisdomDaily.com, a Newsmax contributor and voted rabbi I'd like to most preside over my wedding in a recent J-Date survey. That is awesome. Brad Hirschfield.
I noticed you didn't question that one.
No, not at all.
The other two you did. I like that. It's not true, but I love that you didn't question it.
Oh, we could have totally sold that. Anyway, it's time for the Daily Download. Sergeant Bo Bergdahl now facing a life behind bars. He's been charged with desertion and misbehavior before the enemy. And this afternoon, military officials at Army Forces Command at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, says Bergdahl will face military trial for abandoning his post in Afghanistan in 2009, which led to his 5 years of captivity by the Taliban.
Sergeant Bergdahl is charged under the Uniform Code of Military Justice with Article 85, desertion with intent to shirk important or hazardous duty, and one count of Article 99, misbehavior before the enemy by endangering the safety of a command, unit, or place.
Army Colonel Daniel King adds that the second charge faces a steep penalty.
Misbehavior before the enemy by endangering the safety of a command, unit, or place carries a maximum potential penalty of a dishonorable discharge, reduction to the rank of E1, total forfeiture of all pay and allowances, and possible confinement for life.
Now, if you remember last May, with much fanfare and hype, President Obama, surrounded by Bergdahl's parents at the Rose Garden, made the announcement of Bergdahl's safe return.
He wasn't forgotten by his community in Idaho or the military, which rallied to support the Bergdahls through thick and thin. And he wasn't forgotten by his country, because the United States of America does not ever leave our men and women in uniform behind.
But the initial celebration of Bergdahl's return quickly turned to a backlash. Some of Bergdahl's platoon mates called him a traitor, and some Republicans in Congress, like former POW John McCain, sharply criticized the Obama administration for trading Bergdahl for 5 Taliban detainees who were held at Gitmo. Today, Senator McCain calling the charges an important step in the military justice process. Some questions now being raised as to whether some members of the military lost their lives in an effort to rescue Bergdahl. Mr. Bergdahl will now face a preliminary hearing next month at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. So, Rick Unger, does Bergdahl get life?
You know, it's fascinating. Everybody expected the desertion charge, which would have resulted, or which does result in a maximum 5-year incarceration. And everybody kind of thought that since he had already spent 5 years in captivity, that might be the way out. What surprised most people was the second charge, the misbehaving in front of the enemy, which does carry a life sentence. My suspicion is that no, he will not be incarcerated for life, but this does bring a whole new twist to where everybody thought this was going to go.
Could you explain the charge of misbehaving in front of the enemy?
I think it means if you pull your pants down, bend over, and give them the raspberries. I don't know.
It's just a strange sounding charge.
Did you look it up?
It's acting, it's shamelessly and with cowardice. I mean, it really gets into those types of things. It's the exact language of it is endangering the safety of your command and using cowardly conduct. It really has to do with cowardice. And I personally think that he should get more than 5 years and perhaps should even get life. You know, we're putting more and more people staying in Afghanistan now. And the people who served in his platoon think that he left them, endangered the lives of the people who were there. I think 6 people died as a result of looking for
the misbehavior was putting his own people in jeopardy. It wasn't the way he behaved with the Taliban.
So there are two parts to it, the way the code is written, as I understand it, which is it is bad behavior, an element of which is endangering your unit. And that's the really significant piece here.
I see.
Because in the end, I resonate with what the president said, we don't leave our people behind. But if a person leaves their fellow soldiers behind, that's a whole different deal. It's not about the Taliban soldiers or terrorists, call them what you want. I think terrorists that we traded them for, because there's 5,000 behind the 5 we traded. And I think it's really important. An army is not only great, in my view at least, because of the number of enemy combatants it can kill. Well, that's very important. It's also great because of how it values the life, especially of its own soldiers. And so I think you do go the extra mile when it's shady. But then you bring the person home and they do have to face justice. And if he really did endanger his unit, for me, all bets are off.
And I apologize for putting you on the spot. That's a charge
that's
I've never
all right.
heard before.
It's
And
it's an unusual charge.
I didn't have a
for- and-
chance to look it up, so I'm glad you guys had. It is an unusual charge, and this was really significant. Nobody saw this coming. Everybody really presumed it was going to be the desertion charge, and there was going to be this 5-year trade-off.
Well, and he could arguably get life for desertion in the time of war, but no one thought that he would.
Yeah.
And the thing that
He
is,
didn't even raise it today.
no, they didn't even bring it up.
He said
I know.
5
And then when
years,
he
yeah.
names that second charge, you're right.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of was taken aback. But I think, as Brad said, it is more than appropriate, and it really underscores, the whole argument about bringing him back. And when Susan Rice said he served with honor and distinction, we now know that not to
Maybe
be
not
true.
so much. We're going to have to see exactly what happened, and they're not going to talk about it until this trial gets underway. But I don't know how he would have endangered his fellow soldiers, but there may have indeed been a way, and this charge would indicate
Well, I mean,
there's something we don't know.
We won't know until the
Yeah.
trial, but again, just if he's on guard, just walking away from that post, when you're in a forward position,
that could be.
you have endangered the
Yeah.
entire platoon.
Nobody's on guard.
That role as guard is actually a sacred trust that every guy who's
So
trying
would
to
you
put
give
his head down
somebody
to
life
sleep,
for
you
doing
have
that?
with them.
You
Yeah,
would?
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's at least possible within the Uniform Military Code of Justice. It's clearly an option, and I think we're going to have to figure out at trial what really happened. We don't know. I think you're right, but the story has to come out, and I think the fact that it was worth bringing him home is one issue. That's about the sacredness of the life of every combatant.
Yeah,
who's
you
sent
and I
into
see this
battle.
very much the same way. I didn't think we made a mistake bringing home, but I completely agree. The guy deserted. He deserted.
That's it.
This was called by the Obama administration at the time as an imperfect wartime decision. In other words, we had to make a choice, and we wanted to get one of our guys home. Was this politically motivated in an effort by the president to empty Gitmo in essence and say, he wants to close it? That was a promise from day one. It never happened. And this is one way to do it, right?
A trade for 5 for 1 is certainly unfair trade just in numbers. I think also the fact that he did not clear it by Congress before he brought him home as he was supposed to, give them 30 days notice. I think there's a lot to be said for a political reason there.
Last word.
Look, is it political? It's not an efficient way to empty Gitmo 5 for 1, and I really do believe unequal trades are a powerful claim about how we value our lives versus what they value in theirs, and I'd like to win in that argument.
Many
Yeah,
times.
it's
We'll
historically
have to
done.
leave it there. Coming up next, Secretary of State John Kerry tries to finish a deal with Iran. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV.